That is the state that's flying directly over while they are tampering with my phone, trying to stop my ability to record video of that. This is third party that I'm taking pictures of. They're crossing path. This is called concerted conduct. While the state's fake sun object that I captured in video remains over the parking lot. That's P.O.C. And I will take screenshots of them tampering with my video. What it was you have this third party in relevant position just hanging around in the parking lot outside the room, while 229 directly next to me, that's not opening the door, just slam the hell out of the door, while the third-party employee, Katia, is standing in front of my room. That's relevant positioning. That's activity creation under the enhanced light that I am reminding the public of, bringing up all the cumulative documentation of the state engaging in that S.I.I.S. conduct, placing its light objects directly over the same venue, in addition to the fact that it is directly over me at every other venue where I'm at. And so this is while I am engaged in that documentation, and 229, that again is inside, slamming the door and not answering. This is me knocking on the door at the same time that the state is flying over the venue. This is all elements, by the way. This is P.O.C. and this is obstruction, and this is also the ongoing engagement in monitoring my documentation in real time. So not only are they engaged in P.O.C. of monitoring, they're engaged in monitoring that documentation and trying to obstruct it. This is P.O.C. at the facilitating venue of Economy Inn. That is Katia, an employee, a third-party employee. You have third-party patrons. You have third-party just general strangers who literally are on the property just acting with the state, whether or not they are actually engaged in using a room or not. It is P.O.C. here. The state is clearly engaged in stalking conduct, and that's what I have already proven by my documentation. What I am showing is that the tools that the state engages in, which is stalking with light, and that is the impossible light activity that is not only on the surfaces, but it is also directly above this parking lot as it remains all day long, and also at night, as I am shown the state engaged in that stalking following conduct at night. And again, 229, who seconds before the plane flew over, seconds before I exited, and directly encountered a third-party employee engaged in the criminal element of relevant positioning, planted in front of my room while 229 is not slamming the door, and 229 is not opening the door. This is third-party conduct. It is not a coincidence where you have the state engaging in ongoing stalking and being present everywhere that I am, flying over me everywhere that I go, and every venue that I'm located in airplanes, and sounding their sirens and being present by police, fire, and ambulance. That's statutorily described and defined as stalking conduct by an entity, as opposed to stalking conduct by just one individual. That's the substance of my documentation. The state is present both directly through the state, planes, helicopters, police, fire, ambulance, and indirectly through every single third party. Third party presence is state presence. The state is in operation of a group stalking system. So where they are present, engaged in that group stalking conduct, you have the state present, creating that activity, present for that criminal purpose. Third party that I captured going into 231, that's license plate 6, Uncle 30667. That's the one that I pictured in the white shirt, a tan hat, and also white bottoms, a Latino male who goes into the room to my right. Again, that is relevant positioning, as he is also engaged in activity creation and crossing path as well, relevant positioning in the parking lot. Again, all of this activity and positioning is under the state's placed light object over the parking lot. This is P.O.C., and I am breaking down how they are engaging in each of those criminal elements. And while they are also engaged in obstruction, while engaged in that criminal conduct. Hello? I just heard you slamming the door. Can you open, please? I just want to ask again, as I do all the time, if you please stop slamming the door. And not only do they slam the door, the state is amplifying that slamming of the door. So it's not just the sound of closing a door. The state is amplifying that activity, so it sounds as though it is occurring inside of my room. That's what amplification is, the maximizing of the sound of all manner of noise. And noise is just a means of audible activity. Audible activity is created for the unlawful purpose of monitoring. And this is to be combined with the images that I captured, also of the images captured of the state engaging in trying to obstruct my ability to take video as I was speaking with third-party employee Katia, engaged in the criminal element of relevant positioning in front of my room as 229's door was slammed, and the state amplifies that door slamming while I am on Facebook uploading videos that I have already provided, I've already published, just showing the cumulative value of documenting where the state is following you with light, noting the impossibility of the fake sun object, which is what it is, because it is squarely above me at every single location where I'm at, and it is in fact not the sun. It is S.I.I.S. conduct. It is that which is occurring also while the state is documented in those same venues as stalking in airplanes, helicopters, and by police. This is P.O.C. It is 3:35 p.m. And again, this documentation is not alone. This is coincided. This coexists with images that I've taken and also documentation. Well, all of my documentation, but with regard to a time capsule directly tied to that which I am documenting on Twitter in written form and also in video on TikTok, and which I have also related to the same Twitter thread, and this is images that I'm taking which were used as a alternative because the state engaged in tampering with my phone, which is the obstruction, P.O.C, while the state is engaged in criminal conduct, trying to obstruct the ability to document and trying to obstruct the ability to publish that documentation while it continues its criminal conduct. And so while seeking to use the camera to record video, and again, while ILA is aimed onto the ground of the second floor walkway, while you have a fake sun object that is directly above, okay, this requires that light is being aimed at an angle in order to spread onto the floor, the ground of the walkway, and that is also that which is incongruent. That is not which is occurring where a sun, and this is whether you want to allege that it's the actual sun or not, where it is directly above a construction and it is a covered walkway, it would be shaded. But what you have is that there is light on that walkway, and that requires that light is being aimed at an angle. In addition to the fact that the state is engaged in light, directing light into the top of the window, which is what provides ongoing light, illuminating the top of the window inside of the room. That's also impossible light activity, not existing, not occurring by the placement of any kind of light object over the construction. There is shade, period. What you have is direct light that is beaming into the window. The same conduct used at Woodside Senior Apartments, the same conduct used at Mayfair Inn. This is impossible light activity. This is the central element to monitoring with communication devices. And what I am showing is how not only are all the elements present, and I'm documenting the ongoing stalking in airplane by the state, but also the criminal conduct of monitoring by third parties, which is state presence. There is no distinction. See, third parties on TikTok get really excited, but it's not just TikTok. Third parties in general, they get really excited, and that is because they do not understand the law and they do not understand the prosecution that is impending on the state of California. Third party presence is state presence, period. They are present, engaged, present meaning they are in relevant position. They are present as a group. We are not focusing on just Katia, okay? We're talking about she represents a third party present in relevant position under the state's concentrated light, present where the state is engaged in stalking conduct directly and indirectly. She represents that indirect presence, engaged in criminal monitoring on behalf of and in concert with that stalking entity, which is already a proven fact. Every single place that I'm going, documenting airplanes and helicopters and police, and by substitution, fire and ambulance. That's stalking, statutorily. They are engaged in monitoring while engaged in that stalking conduct, third-party presence, and there is no exception. All of them that are in relevant position to the targeted individual are engaged in that unlawful conduct, monitoring with communication devices. Third-party presence is state presence. What you have is concerted group stalking presence, and that is only visible because the state remains present in airplanes. This is why they engage in at the drop of a dime, sounding their sirens. They remain present, creating activity at the drop of a dime via airplane amplification and helicopter amplification. But for my ongoing documentation, the state would be engaged in much more of that egregious and highly criminal and outlandish, like unfathomable conduct. But because I am documenting, you have a state that is engaged in continuous criminal conduct, but also engaged in ongoing obstruction, seeking to limit and restrict as much as they can their engagement in that criminal conduct. But it has been captured and it has also been published. And that is the absence of a coincidence at every single place that I'm at. And I mean every single place, from the courthouse to City Hall to the jails where I'm falsely imprisoned. to being illegally arrested, and in a police vehicle, you have the state engaged in following by airplanes, to going to every third-party venue, including the grocery store, Starbucks, 7-Eleven, Mayfair Inn, and Economy Inn. You're talking about food for less. You're talking about being on the freeway, being in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Union Station. You're talking about walking down the street in Los Angeles, walking down the street in anywhere in Ontario, which is the main area where I have remained. But again, this stalking conduct by the state directly, in direct presence, is in reference to the state engaging in those criminal elements, such that it is visible, such that you can capture it, as opposed to indirectly, where the state is present via third parties that are acting criminally with the state. They are the ones that are visually engaged in activity creation and engaged in relevant positioning, such that it is able to be captured and published. But the state is present. Not only is the state always present because of third parties that maintain group presence, engaging in criminal monitoring, but the state is always present because the state is engaged in surveillance. So irrespective of my capturing the state that is hiding around and in airplanes and in police vehicles, in dark corners and across the street and back alleys and in dark car garages, this is documented police conduct. They are engaged in that inconspicuous stalking presence. They are always present, whether I happen to have it in a video or not. But what I do have is third-party presence, which is also state presence. And this is how group stalking works. And this is how you define what is stalking conduct. And this is how stalking is contracted, if you will, because third parties are acting on behalf of that state. What is significant about what again, I just want to be clear, what is significant about this is you're capturing not only P.O.C. of stalking, and it is within the context of a state system operated by that entity on whose behalf every third party is criminally engaged in monitoring with it, hence group stalking, because they are present, engaging in that criminal element, those criminal elements with the state. So they are not merely present, they are stalking on behalf of that entity engaged in that monitoring system. But you also, what I'm also capturing is ongoing obstruction as I document criminal P.O.C. And this is what I have focused on Twitter in written form, documenting as the state is engaged in amplifying what is third-party criminal engagement and audible activity and relevant positioning. The state's constant light provided by impossible light activity aimed onto the surfaces, aimed into the room, and remaining over the venue. This is P.O.C. It is 3:42 p.m. It's Tuesday, September 15th, 2020, and that is the P.O.C. Okay, just as a closing note, what was exchanged between third-party employee Katia, this is how she identified herself. She is an employee here at Economy Inn, a third-party facilitating venue. I am being specific in the titles, but understand that a third party is merely identification of the same group, whether they work at the venue or whether they are a patron at the venue or whether they are merely a criminal visitor at the venue, meaning just passing through, engaging in P.O.C., having no ties whatsoever. Just literally present in relevant position, engaging in the criminal system. So to be specific, and that's how I'm breaking it down, she is a third party that works here. So understand the pattern of conduct for monitoring is unhindered, irrespective of any form, any excuse, if you will, for any presence or activity. So whether you work here or whether you're a patron here or whether you're just visiting someone here or whether you're just driving circles in the parking lot or just parking in order to engage in criminal P.O.C. and then leaving, whatever it is that you're doing, it is irrelevant with regard to the engagement in those criminal elements. You were talking about the public entity, the state of California, engaging in a group stalking and monitoring system. And this is how public corruption exists. It exists in plain sight. They engage in activity out in the open. They engage in presence out in the open. And actually, you have to, in order to create audible activity, it is also activity that I'm going to hear. But what I am breaking down is the fact that, and the ways in which, the methods, if you will, of engagement in that criminal conduct, which is understood in its illegal context and its systematic context once the elements are understood the actual criminal conduct that they're engaged in, and you're really just seeing I'm just giving example after example of the ways in which they engage in those criminal elements, and it is the repetitious engagement in that criminal series of elements, light, activity, and relevant positioning over and over and over again. Light is constant. I am documenting the methods of that. You have the state engaging in placing concentrated light over my person as I move anywhere and over any venue where I remain. That is one method. Third parties also engage in creating light activity. The state engages in aiming ILA anywhere I'm at, inside and outside. That is what my documentation shows. Activity, which is constant. This is the significance of what I document, where third parties are engaged in constant activity creation, constant noise. It is an exaggerated level of activity. It is not just coincidental where the state is operating a group stalking and monitoring system. It serves that unlawful purpose of monitoring with communication devices. That is how you monitor, and that is not coincidental where the state is engaged in stalking conduct. This is how you engage in that unlawful system of monitoring, and I am showing through my documentation how it is unfolding and what that criminal conduct manifests as. This is public corruption. This is how you understand the substance of any form, because form is irrelevant. You are looking at the existence of all criminal elements at all times and the ways in which the methods that it is engaged in. And the state stalking system is what prefaces all of that. So you also have the ongoing presence, and that is the group stalking itself. The state is engaged in stalking. The state is the one that is operating a group stalking system for monitoring purposes. And so you have the state stalking directly in airplanes, helicopters by police, the state stalking indirectly via third parties. Third party presence is state presence. Those are the three elements of monitoring. That is the significance of my documentation, breaking down the ways in which those three elements continue to exist and remain present at all times. And so with regard to what preceded my audio, documentation of what was the slamming of 229, which is directly adjacent to my room, and the state amplifying that, and that is just maximizing the audible impact, just making everything much, much louder, which is legally defined as the ongoing harassment, which is inherent when you're engaged in monitoring and stalking. When you have to monitor with a substantial amount of noise, that is also going to be harassment. And so this is a system, this is a pattern of conduct. And so harassment is inherent to criminal monitoring. It's inherent to criminal stalking, especially at the magnitude involved where a public entity is operating a system of group stalking and monitoring. And so what you have was my conversation with a third-party employee, Katia, and this is how she identified herself. Nonetheless, she is a third-party in relevant position, engaged in the form of doing a job. What she is engaged in at the time when I'm speaking with her is placement directly in front of my room. She's in front of the window beside the air cooler as I open the door. And what I hear before I open the door is the extraordinary noise, extraordinarily loud noise of what sounds as a closing, slamming door. And this is while I am on the internet uploading videos to Facebook specifically about the fake sun object being directly over me at Woodside Senior. And this is to compare it to it's being directly over me, directly over the room at Economy Inn, where I remain now. That's what I was in the midst of doing. And so as I step out, Katia is in front of my room. Now, moments prior, I took a video earlier today, which I did upload to TikTok, and I did forward to Twitter and Facebook, and I am showing how at that time, that is where the fake sun object is at a different location. In my pictures where I'm capturing the rooms 229 and 231, the fake sun object I also capture, it is directly at the edge of the building, directly above my room. That's what I capture in a picture. That is the element of light. The state rearranging it, moving it closer. That is a distinctly different location than where it is captured in video. And also want to note is that it is only Katia's claim that 231 contains a person inside. Because what I observed when I stepped out earlier and took 2 videos and license plates sampling third-party presence. Every single last license plate represents a third party. That is in relevant position. That is acting with communication devices to monitor while ongoing activity is created, while light is concentrated on this venue. It is P.O.C. irrespective of anything. There is no exception. That is group stalking, and those are merely a sample because the zone of relevant positioning extends farther than this parking lot. But that's what I captured, and Katia alone is who claims that there was someone in 231. Understand that, first of all, third parties lie, and second of all, the state is amplifying noise, and so it is very also what was also observed is that 231 was conspicuously empty as the third-party venue, Economy Inn, monitoring what I'm doing. So as I step out, the room is open, clearly empty, no one inside, and appears as though it is being cleaned. And the third-party Katia is in relevant position, while ILA and the state's fake sun object is out. She is engaged in P.O.C., whether doing it in the form of doing a job or not. She's engaged in P.O.C., but also what was present was that room was empty, and she claims that the door was slammed by someone who was in the room at that time. And I am merely just noting the details. This is only the claim of Katia. Whether a third party was actually in that room or not is actually unknowable because no one opened that door as I knocked on it, as I documented for my podcast. And it was only the claim of Katia who was present. She is the one who was present. She is the one who was engaged in cleaning the room where the room was empty and where the door was immediately slammed, and I see her standing outside of my room. So irrespective of whether someone is actually in 231 slamming the door or whether it was actually Katia, the third-party employee, slamming the door and remaining in position outside of my room, which is who I saw when I stepped out. It is still P.O.C. nonetheless. I'm just noting the details because the details matter. And it is relevant with regard to, any subtle details that may become relevant at a later date, but it is nonetheless the pattern of conduct of activity creation, while she is the one that is in close quarters, visually engaged in relevant positioning, but third parties on the property are all in relevant position. That's the significance. Every time I step out and I capture the plane and I capture a third party who happens to be sitting in their car, who happens to be driving in the parking lot, who happens to be standing in the middle of the parking lot, who happens to be riding a bike or walking past, that is the same relevant positioning. It is P.O.C. The zone of relevant positioning extends outside of this parking lot. That is why the state is also engaged in concentrating light over this venue while the state is engaged in the use of amplification of sound. They use these tools because monitoring is being accomplished using communication devices, using technology where they are present as a group, that is state and third parties, and third party presence is indirect state presence. They are present within an entire zone. So it's not just the third party that I'm capturing in video who happens to be engaged in close quarters, visually, criminally engaged in monitoring. It expands beyond that. Every third party that I document is merely a sample, an example of what third parties are doing as a group, of what the state is doing as an entity. Okay, it is, just wanted to note that it's 4:11 p.m. And this is just reiterating the fact that my knocking on the door of 231 is pursuant to the claim of the third party engaged in P.O.C. of claiming that 231 was at that time, at that moment, filled with someone who closed the door, who did not open the door when I knocked on it, and also where before I stepped out earlier and took video, and the room was conspicuously empty. The door held open as it appeared to be cleaned. And so just want to note those details. It's 4:12 p.m. Erica Lorraine Spencer, this is P.O.C. And this is going to be published for audio documentation purposes, but also the images that are captured at the same time. And again, the images are captured as the alternative because the state engaged in ongoing obstruction. Again, proof of the very pattern of conduct that I'm documenting. Monitoring serves the purpose of tampering with the communication device. There is nothing wrong with my phone. There's nothing wrong with the camera, as I clearly engage in substantial video documentation. That is literally the state at that moment engaged in desperate criminal activity, stopping the ability for me to record a video of third-party employee Katia, who was walking away at that time while the video continued to not operate as I pressed the record button, and on the screen it was a white box that said warning, failure to record. Which I was not able to get a screenshot of, but that's why I took the images. And also, as the state engages in this obstruction, this is when the plane flies over seconds later, which I took an image of. This is when the third party in the truck, aware, because they're acting in concert, is engaging in crossing a path, walking by to room 229, entering into the room. That's audible activity and relevant positioning, while the state is concentrating light on the venue. Those are all the elements of P.O.C. They're just repeating that same conduct over and over and over again, the same three elements. That third party, by the way, remained for several moments, and then he exits the room, relevant positioning, activity creation, and then leaves the venue in that same white vehicle whose license I recited. That is P.O.C. And there is no form whereby there is any exception to that. This is group stalking and monitoring. This is the way that it exists. These are the elements that are in operation, and they are ceaselessly repeated over and over and over again. And the public corruption aspect is that third parties, the people of the state of California, are acting in concert with that public entity that is operating a group stalking and monitoring system. Group stalking is, by definition, the fact that the people of the state of California are engaged in that criminal element of relevant positioning. And the reason why it is criminal is because they are engaged in monitoring with communication devices while in relevant position, while the state is established as engaged in stalking conduct and operation of that state system, that state organized system of group stalking and monitoring. So that unlawful presence is stalking on behalf of that entity while engaged in criminal monitoring. This is group stalking by definition, and this is that which is occurring on a systematic basis. And my documentation is showing that systematic engagement and the different methods of literally just criminal engagement in all three elements of light, activity, and relevant positioning. Relevant positioning is constant because the state is engaged in group stalking in concert with third parties. Light is constant because the state is engaged in constant light over the venue and over my location, wherever I remain and wherever I go. So activity is what is essentially continuously engaged in as I make any moves, as I remain anywhere. The state engaged in, and activity is created by audible activity, visual activity, and or sensational activity. And that is the main engagement, but all three elements are repeated and they remain present at all times. It is 4:15 p.m., and that is P.O.C. Erica Lorraine Spencer and my podcast on Anchor. This will be published. This is 4:14 p.m. as I am creating this podcast, this audio form of documentation. The state is amplifying at 4:14 p.m. It's 4:16 p.m. So 2 minutes ago, the state engaged in ongoing criminal element of activity creation. That is the amplification of the sound of airplanes directly over this venue, which is amplified inside of my room. This is occurring while I am creating this podcast. And so that is ongoing conduct, evidenced by the plethora of video documentation, not only at Economy Inn, but everywhere that I go. The state is engaged in providing proof of its stalking conduct, and it is the element of criminal activity creation for the unlawful purpose of monitoring. It is the criminal element of relevant positioning as they cross path in the airplanes. That's what they are doing as far as stalking and monitoring each and every time they are using aircraft to do so. And it is the same elements with regard to the state and vehicle and the state by third party, whether they are in vehicles, whether they're on foot, whether they're on bikes, whether they are stationary in relevant position in a room or outside of a room. It is P.O.C. That is the same three elements over and over and over again. It's 4:17 p.m. and that is P.O.C.